Hello and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's Wednesday Interlude, in which I discuss my top 10 favourite authors. After watching a video by Mara of Books Like Woe, who listed her top 10 favourite authors, I will link her video below, I considered my own list of top 10 favourite authors and compared it to my top 10 list of favourite books. You can check out my list of my top 10 favourite books in the info card above. I was surprised to discover that 9 of my top 10 favourite novels are not from my favourite authors. The books I listed in my top 10 books video were from a diverse range of authors whose individual works I especially admire and value. But my top 10 authors each have a body of work that I enjoy. This top 10 list is not a list of the 10 greatest writers, but my top 10 favourite authors whose works give me pleasure to read. I've noticed that in looking over my list that there is, as in my top 10 books list, the same underlying reason for the choice of all 10 of the authors I have chosen, and that is that they all have the 3 things in common that I admire in my favourite books. They all have fascinating characters, a compelling storyline, and a pleasing narrative style. I suppose that the most important of those 3 elements in a favourite author is that they should have a pleasing narrative style. If their writing style does not delight you, then it will be difficult to take an interest in their characters or stories over a series of books. However, all 3 elements are necessary for an author to become a favourite of mine. In this video I will only provide a brief overview of each author, but for further information on each author I have compiled a playlist comprising all 10 of my Spotlight On episodes on these authors, which you will find at the end of the video. Coming in at number 10, Baroness Orczy. I own 11 books by her. Baroness Emma Orczy writes with passion. Her book, called A Son of the People, is up there with Pride and Prejudice for sheer entertainment value and delight, but whereas Austen writes with wit, Orczy writes with passion. Her Scarlet Pimpernel series is justly famous, and for thrilling adventure in the superhero category they cannot be bettered. It is no good being snooty about Orczy's style. She was not writing highbrow literature but exciting popular fiction, and her style is racy, immediate and melodramatic. She writes with absolute conviction, and she believes in her characters and in their adventures and tells us about them with passion and persuasion. Orczy's writing style is vivid, full-bodied and dramatic, and she plunges you into the midst of the terror of the French Revolution and the dramatic adventures of her hero. She may not be a great novelist, but she's certainly a very enjoyable one. Coming in at number 9, P.G. Woodhouse. I own 14 books by him and 3 autobiographies, his letters, and the DVD collection of his Jeeves stories. My favourite novels and short stories by P.G. Woodhouse are those that feature Bertie Wooster. You will notice that I do not say Jeeves. The Jeeves stories are actually the memoirs of Bertie Wooster, in which Jeeves features. It is Bertie Wooster that I love. Jeeves is a dark and sinister character, but Bertie is light and an innocent abroad. A fatuous idiot, of course, and Jeeves is highly intelligent, but Bertie is likeable and Jeeves is not. Coming at number 8, Sir Winston Churchill. I own 14 books by him and 1 biography. This choice may come as a surprise for those who only think of Churchill as a political leader, but as I have demonstrated in my profile of Churchill, he was an accomplished writer and an enjoyable one. His two major series on the First and Second World Wars are masterpieces of exposition. The massive information that Churchill provides in these works could so easily have been dull, prosaic and indigestible, but Churchill's autobiographical approach, his energetic prose style and his magnetic personality shines through with dynamic appeal. Coming in at number 7, James Herriot. I own all 8 books of his memoirs and 1 biography. The Yorkshire vet was not only a successful vet, but an accomplished storyteller of excellence. His mastery of the short form, which he used throughout his 8 memoirs, provides for a delightful romp through the Yorkshire countryside that he so loved. His characterizations of the people he met and worked with are lively and enjoyable. He knew how to provide a satisfactory ending to all of the stories he relates, so that at the end of each one you are left with a feeling of satisfaction, with either a smile or a feeling of delicious sadness. Coming in at number 6, Sir John Mortimer. I own 9 Rumpole books by him, 2 other novels and the complete TV series of Rumpole on DVD. His creation of Rumpole the Bailey was a stroke of genius. Horace Rumpole had a long and eventful life as an old Bailey hack, as he calls himself, and he decides to give us the memoirs of his triumphs and disasters in inimitable style. Horace takes us on a roller coaster ride through the ups and downs of British justice, in which both he and we enjoy the harmless fun that is to be had through the many cases in which Rumpole is engaged at the Old Bailey and elsewhere. Rumpole is an absolute delight. Coming in at number 5, Jacques Casanova, the Chevalier de Seingalt. I own the complete unabridged version of Casanova's memoirs in 6 volumes and a novel based on one of his love affairs and a biography. In over 120 scenarios, like mini plays, Casanova provides us with complicated plots, heroes and villains, and gallant outcomes to his many love affairs. Although Casanova was a prolific author, having written 42 books, it is for his memoirs that Casanova is chiefly remembered today. They are a terrific read because Casanova was a literary artist, highly intelligent, and presents his material like mini plays with a satisfying ending or outcome to the affair he's depicting. He was also a remarkable person, and his adventurous life spent travelling across Europe from end to end in search of fortune and hobnobbing with the rich and famous makes for exciting and thrilling reading. Coming in at number 4, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I own 19 books by Doyle, two biographies, 7 pastiche novels, and the DVD set of the Sherlock Holmes stories. Doyle was a prolific writer in many genres. Sherlock Holmes has tended to overshadow Doyle's vast output of his other work, but they are all worthy of our attention because it was his skill as a writer that I admire. In a few terse, dynamic sentences, Doyle can immediately capture our attention and plunges us into the heart of the story. Whenever I read Doyle, I marvel at his skill in being able, with a few apt words, to weave a dramatic and involving story. Coming in at number 3, Jean Plaidy. I own 43 books by Jean Plaidy. She was one of the preeminent authors of historical fiction for most of the 20th century. Jean Plaidy combined imagination with history to bring the past alive. Her historical novels are full-blooded, dramatic and exciting. The dialogue is believable and the actions of her characters are credible. She never once strikes a false note. I love her for the quality of her writing and her attention to historical detail, all of which is enlivened by an informed imagination. Coming in at number 2, Anthony Trollope. I own 23 books by Anthony Trollope and 2 biographies. I never finish a Trollope novel feeling either disgusted, dissatisfied, or that I've wasted my time, as I've often felt with another author of the period. Trollope is a satisfying author. He sets up expectations and then he fulfills them. He never disappoints by doing the unexpected or the unsatisfactory. He was a consummate novelist of extraordinary talent. Trollope intrudes himself into his novels in a way that is both charming and enjoyable, unlike other authors who have tried to do the same and who were merely intrusive and annoying. Trollope's comments on his characters never hold up the story or destroy the illusion of the fiction created by our author. This is a rare talent. Trollope is an author whom you can not only like, but the more of his work that you read can come to love. Coming in at number 1, W. Somerset Maugham. I own 13 novels by him, 3 volumes of short stories, 3 volumes of his plays, 3 volumes of essays, and 5 biographies. W. Somerset Maugham was the most successful all-rounder of the 20th century. It seems that whatever he turned his hand to, he succeeded at it. Playwright, novelist, short story writer, travel writer, essayist. He succeeded because he wrote with a purpose in mind. In his book of essays called The Summing Up, he wrote, "It seems to me that I must aim at lucidity, simplicity, and euphony." I think that Maugham achieved these aims brilliantly. Furthermore, he adopted a persona in his writings that was somewhat cynical of human nature, non-judgmental in his attitudes towards their weaknesses and failures, and thus made for delightful and interesting stories. So that's all, folks, but I'll be back soon with another BookTube video.